Good morning and welcome to the 445 Productive Through Joy show with your host and your boy, Dr. Michael Datcher. The show airs each weekday morning, hella early AF at 4:45 a.m. here on YouTube's Michael Datcher channel, then 4:45 p.m. on Facebook Live. Guys, today we're talking about possibilities, what is possible. And we are arguing, proclaiming, and demonstrating that all things are possible eventually, as you'll see when we dive into this really interesting topic. So, if you are new, you can go to productivethroughjoy.com, see about us. We speak to groups, schools, and organizations about being productive through joy. We have a very interesting series of workshops, seminars, webinars, other programs that you can uh, tap into at productivethroughjoy.com. See about us. We'll see about you. I should start saying that all the time. See about us. We'll see about you. So thanks for joining us, guys. Allow me to say a few words about myself first for those of you who are new. This is your host and your boy, Dr. Michael Datcher. I'm the author of the New York Times bestseller Raising Fences. I am the author of the acclaimed historical novel Americas. I am the author of the recently Pulitzer Prize nominated Animating Black and Brown Liberation, a theory of American literatures. My educational background is UC Berkeley as an undergrad, my master's from UCLA, and my PhD in English literature from the University of California at Riverside. Guys, I'm also the board president of a great nonprofit here in Los Angeles called The World Stage. I think that's all I should be saying yet. My education, I think I said all that stuff. I say all those things because basically I'm an expert at being productive, but also people are almost always surprised to hear that level of productivity given how crazy my own personal background is. I am the product of a young girl who was assaulted at age 16, gave birth to me at 17 as a result of that assault, and then subsequently gave me up for adoption to an amazing single divorcee, though at the time no biological father, no adopted father. Listen, difficult times for the young MD, yet as cool Moby famously said, how you like me now? Right? And if I can be this productive and be so through joy, we know many people can, which is what really inspires this show because I know it's not where you're from, it's where you're about to go. So thanks for joining us. Let's dive into the topic today. So, guys, we're talking today about the idea of possibilities, right? People, if you read biographies, like I like to, you'll see at times people will cut out the word impossible from the dictionary, which I think is a great habit to get into. I don't do that, but I do know I like my dictionaries to kind of be intact because I like dictionaries. There's one right behind me. There's a huge one, the Oxford English Dictionary right behind me. Got a bunch of them because I love words. So although I don't cut out the word impossible, I do know that all things are eventually possible through what I would call spiritual practice. And so, point one is I'm encouraging you to get your mind around the idea, which is where it really does all begin. The idea that all things are possible. You know, from our earliest time in our life, our parents, because they love us, they want to protect us and not have us get disappointed oftentimes, as they have been in their own lives, as we all, of course, face disappointment, but that's what parents do. I'm a parent, I know that's what I do. Even though I'm all spiritual and conscious, I'm like, I have to fight to be like other parents and fight not to be that way and let my kids know about the idea that all things are possible because parents want to protect us. They don't want to see us get our hearts broken and don't want to see us dream too big, which I totally get. But we have to resist that and instead affirm that all things are possible. And that begins with the mind. Well, what are you saying? How can you say that all things are possible? Can you fly? I get that type of immediate response. So, point two was, well, how do you get to that space? And let me say that because that's such a radical thought, that you don't just arrive at that space and you think, I've arrived, I've done it, I know all things are possible. At least not for me. That has to be that idea, that space of understanding. You have to, in my experience, work at that to stay in that space every day, which we'll get to in a second. So point two is, well, how do you get to that mindset that all things are possible? Well, one way to start is looking at what I would just call physics. Now, most of us had physics in around the 10th grade. And depending on what school you went to, you were at least exposed to it by the 10th grade. So we all know from, I'll call it 10th grade physics, that according to science, and although the occupant of the 45 of the White House doesn't believe in science, science is real. How do you not believe in science? How do you not trust science? Anyway, but science is real. I guess that's, you're a follower of that philosophy as well. Science actually is real. It's a real thing. And we know from science that energy cannot be created or destroyed, which means that all that has been on the earth it just changes forms. That all that has been on the earth is still here and in a different form. Everything, because everything is energy, as we know, from how the atom is constructed, what's inside the atom, electrons, protons, etc. So we know that all things are energy. And energy cannot be created or destroyed. So that means that the primordial thing, the first thing, I'll call it the first energy, I'll just call it God. God that was here at the beginning, that one thing, that oneness, as the ancient Egyptians called it, Amen, which is a sidebar, as you know, is all throughout the Bible. But people say, Amen, at least in the black churches I went to, Amen. But that's that Amen in the Bible is the Amen is the oldest name for God in the Egyptian tradition, just as a sidebar. And so that original thing is still here and it's everywhere, including inside of each of us. So that's just fact, just science, right? The original energy, the thing that was here first, that energy is still here and it's everywhere. And that means everywhere also includes you, includes me. And so the thing is, the idea is, the technique is to tap into the pre-existing power already inside of you, which goes right into point 3. So when I say that God thing is in you, which is true, it's everywhere. So I live here along the coast here in Venice, California. And if I were to walk out my house here and bring a thimble, like an old school thimble, and go to the ocean and walk back to the house, that thimble of ocean water, that's still the ocean. Has the same qualities, it's the ocean. It's a very small amount of the ocean, but still the ocean. It's a very small property. It has all the same properties of ocean water. It's salt water, it has the stuff in it, whatever ocean water has in it. And so in the exact same way, that's what that God energy is inside of you and me, right? So we are the same qualitatively as God, not the same quantitative. That thimble of water isn't the same quantitatively as the ocean, but the properties are the same. So, because that's just fact, right? As a result, we can do what the God does, right? If you know much or anything about spiritual traditions, you know that most spiritual traditions figure and prefigure God as the creator, as a creator, as a creative being, right? God created the earth. Although, of course, we know by common sense that many of the allegories and parables and many sacred texts are just that. But at the core of them, there is a lot of truth. So because the energy, God is the creator, that's a quality, a qualitative aspect of God, the creator, right? That means that because we are made of the same substance, right? Qualitatively as God, we also are creators, and we can do what God does, which is create. And that's why all things are possible. And much of it is tied to being able to see it and believe it in your mind and to attach emotion, which I'll say more about that on the afternoon show. But that's basically how it works. I've experienced it many, many times myself. I've seen it up close. I know it's real. I know that it is real, so I can speak with such conviction about it because I've lived it, done it, and I'm not special. I just follow the metaphysical laws, and it works. So, boom, it goes to dynamite. That's all for today's show, guys. All things are possible eventually. Thanks for being here. We'll see you this afternoon at 4:45 p.m. for part 2 of the show. Until then, let's talk about it and be about it. Deuces.